Where were you before?
I could have used your help with Sansa.
She doesn't like your queen, does she?
Sansa thinks she's smarter than everyone.
She's the smartest person I've ever met.
Those damn words ruined one of the moments that I had been looking forward to the most. One of the buoy moments that was going to save this entire season for me. In case you don't know who that was referring to, in which case, why the fuck are you watching this? That was Arya Stark referring to her sister Sansa Stark, who the showrunners D&D have decided to bestow upon the legacy of Littlefinger, Tyrion, and Cersei, and place her as the counterbalance for the side of good to all the schemers and plotters on the evil side on the board that is the Game of Thrones. But honestly, who gives a shit about any of that crap anymore? We get the Lich King and Sindragosa coming down to craft art projects out of the limbs of your baby brothers and sisters. But I can't help but point out the obvious here. How is she so smart? What has she done to be the Albert Einstein of Earthos? What tricks and 200 IQ schemes has she executed to level herself up to the fourth dimensional chess that other mana-based characters have been playing? Let's review her past. She's the only Stark that wants to ride south, showing that she didn't really learn much from the stories about what happened to her grandpa and uncle. She betrays her sister for her boyfriend and lies about the attack on the river. Arguably the right move, but still, fuck her. Her biggest concern the rest of the season is with the masculinity of her future children with Joff. She then writes a letter begging Robb to come and bend the knee in order to prove her loyalty to the Lannisters, and this comes back into play later when Arya becomes a dum-dum too, and then she doesn't kill Joffin herself when she has the chance on the gangplank. Selfish. Sansa doesn't do much in this season, making it one of her better ones. Really, she just completely fucks up hiding her first period. Now, I've never had one personally, but I mean, she tried to knife the bed instead of just flipping it over and getting some clean sheets. Northerners are simple folk, after all. She also passes up on her first chance to leave the city with Sandor Clegane, the Hound, during the Battle of the Blackwater. In the books, it's a lot more obvious why she turns him down. He just is there when she shows up to her room, drunk, crying, covered in blood, waiting for her, grabs her, forces a knife to her throat, and then forces her to sing for him. It's all kind of like fucked up and sweet at the same time. You know, he's just a real gentleman at heart.
You want to go home?
In the show, it's more just she's afraid to take her destiny into her own hands and pull the trigger. She also assumes that Stannis will win, and if Stannis wins, then she'll be under his protection. She's really smart, though. She actually has a few moments of decency, where she saves Ser Dantos, mocks Joffrey before the Battle of the Blackwater, and is a pillar of strength for the women during the fighting. When Sansa does positive things in the show, I'll make sure to give her credit, even though that list is going to be significantly shorter than the list of fuck-ups. It's obvious where George R.R. Martin is taking her character arc at this point, even if D&D end up rushing it and not doing it gradually at all. She spends most of this season being tossed around as a pawn some more by Littlefinger, the Tyrells, and the Lannisters, all trying to gobble her up as her only worth at this point is that she's the key to the North once Robb is defeated. Because remember, everyone thinks that Bran, Rickon, and most likely Arya are all dead at this point. We do get our second big fuck up by Sansa here. Baelish offers her a way out of the city, and she turns it down because she has dreams of shacking up with Loras Tyrell and becoming the Lady of Highgarden.
Well, I suppose a brooch is a sort of pin, so...
Instead, she gets lucky in a massive upgrade by marrying Tyrion and sulks about it, judging him by no more than his name and his height, even though he has been nothing but kind to her. She then proceeds to not kneel for Tyrion during their wedding ceremony until he prompts her to. She's not only naive, but she's completely fucking oblivious to the world around her as well. She's again used as a pawn and now as a patsy for the death of Joffrey Baratheon. It's a bit of a pattern here with her in the first half of the fucking show. Littlefinger then drags her to the conclusion that he played a role in Joffrey's death, trying to teach her a thing or two in the process. She then spends the rest of this season being tossed around, I gotta think of a better word than pawn, but as a pawn by Littlefinger and Lysa, ultimately being used by Littlefinger to kill Lysa and consolidate his power on the Vale. Now this is supposed to be the turning point for Sansa, at least as far as I'm concerned. Arguably everything before this point can be forgiven, as this is her arc.
Kill the boy, Jon Snow. Winter is almost upon us. Kill the boy. And let the man be born.
She starts as a young, naive girl, and over the course of the series, becomes a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. I personally always viewed her coming down the stairs in her sexy fucking Baelish-inspired dress as like her moment of coming into her own. The moment she was going to take her destiny into her own hands. And how do we celebrate this occasion? She allows herself to be sold into sexual slavery to a guy she knows nothing about on the promise of a man who also knows nothing about said guy, with the belief that she will be able to seduce and control him in his house with her feminine wiles and wit. Reminder that this is the woman who 2 seasons ago didn't know that people had sex before marriage.
He's already fallen for you.
Surprise you. From what I've heard, he's quite experienced.
And that's a good thing.
It can be. We're very complicated, you know. Pleasing us takes practice.
How do you know all this? Did your mother teach you?
Yes, sweet girl. My mother taught me.
And she has a choice here, let's be clear. She decides to go through with this plan instead of running off with Brienne.
Brienne will fucking die.
Then again, she doesn't really know who Brienne is, so whatever, I can forgive her for that. But Littlefinger also says, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this, and we can walk away from this. Everybody's an idiot. This is also one of the first times where Littlefinger starts to act like a moron too. Coincidentally, this is also where the show begins to split from the books. This whole thing doesn't go down this way in them. Jane Poole posing as Arya is married to Ramsay instead. Sansa is gonna be married off to some Vale Lord.
Not unless we make it.
Anyway, this master plan by Littlefinger and Sansa goes wonderfully as expected and leads to Sansa being abused both physically and sexually on a daily and nightly basis for some indiscriminate amount of time. But I will be fair here, as I was in season 2, and give Sansa a small prop for, as she does rile Ramsay up by telling him that he is a bastard legitimized by another bastard, and that his claim on the North will never be as strong as his new half-brothers, thus helping push Ramsay into murdering his father, destabilizing his position, and his eventual downfall in season 6. But anyway, Sansa then escapes Ramsay due to a rescue mission started by Theon and then finished by... Brienne. She can't even recite the vows correctly.
And I vow that you shall always have a place by my hearth and
Meet and mead at my table.
meat and mead at my table. And
This season's theme is Sansa now tries to be a player, but inadvertently starts making everything harder than it needs to be. This is also when I turned on Sansa as a character, where she went from just being a naive pawn to a bumbling idiot. Sansa travels to Castle Black, where she reunites with the brother she treated like crap their entire childhood. She then fails to convince him to take back Winterfell, and then instead a letter from Ramsay forces Jon to mobilize to defend himself. Sansa then has a secret meeting with Littlefinger, whose help in Vale Knights she turns down, even though she knows they need all the help they can get to take back Winterfell. She then proceeds to fuck up negotiations with Lyanna Mormont, and then allows Jon to ride into battle outnumbered without telling him of the Vale Knights that she has available at her beck and call. You know, a vast, and by vast I mean fucking vast, according to the books, anywhere between 30 to 40,000 knights, and powerful mounted unit that could change Jon's strategy immensely and save the lives of thousands of Northerners and free folk. Before the battle, though, she warns Jon not to fall into Ramsay's trap. He's the one that sets traps, he's cunning, and apparently she learned this at some point during her tenure at Chateau Bolton. And Jon asks for an alternative to letting their brother die, and she doesn't have one. Thanks for the tip, Salsa. But, you know, whatever, she's really like the smartest person ever because she saved the day, right? By bringing in the knights. She didn't totally make that battle 10 times harder than it needed to be for Jon. She's the hero.
You think that's obvious?
Well, it is a bit obvious.
Oh boy, season 7, here we go. We begin with Sansa openly rebuking King Jon in front of his court and questioning his decision-making skills. She is more interested in punishing children for the sins of their fathers than unifying in preparation for the true threat. The rest is history. Almost unanimously, the Song of Fire and Ice fandom agrees that the season 7 plot between her and Arya is the weakest part of season 7 and one of the weakest in the show, period. It's right there with the Sand Snakes protecting Dorne and their father's family by killing their father's family and destabilizing Dorne. To sum it all up, after not seeing each other for years, Arya and Sansa are played like damn fiddles by Littlefinger in order to pit the two against each other, weaken Jon, isolate Sansa, and make her more reliant on Littlefinger. Ultimately, his goal is to marry Sansa, unite the Vale in the north, and then somehow move on and claim the Iron Throne. And if it weren't for Bran having internet access, Littlefinger would have gotten away with it. The dialogue in the scene hints at it, and Isaac Wright, who plays Bran, confirmed it.
You said I did warn you not to trust me.
There is a deleted scene showing Sansa going to Bran to confirm she should gut Arya somehow. Not exactly sure how she'll pull that off, since she's like a faceless assassin and a water dancer now. And instead finding out all the bad things Littlefinger has done. I could go on for 15 minutes and make a whole other video about how shit the Littlefinger execution scene is, but Preston Jacobs does a much better job of it. I'll see if I can link it here somehow, or if not, YouTube's weird about comments and annotations and things like that now, so if not, I'll link to it in the description. And that's really it. In the latest season, she gives Jon more grief for going south and bending the knee, even though he came back with a giant army, 2 dragons, and all of them are there to help fight the army of the dead. And even if she thinks everybody's stupid and is being condescending as fuck for believing that Cersei isn't gonna come north to help, at least they got her to back off for a while for the time being. As far as I'm concerned, that's about as good as you could hope for from Cersei. But it isn't good enough for Salsa. Just like with Rickon, she complains and moans about Jon abdicating his throne and believing Cersei is coming north and yada yada, but provides no alternative. So I just don't get the fuss. It's obvious that George R.R. Martin had this in mind for Sansa and told D&D that this was the ultimate plan for her, but they stumbled and farted and shitted all over themselves getting to this point. And instead of a gradual turn showing the audience that she has become the smartest person that Arya's ever met and has like absorbed the power levels of Cersei, Littlefinger, Tyrion, and everybody else she has met, they just told you that she's the smartest person. And deal with it, nerds. And if you don't like it, fuck you.
Quick little recording session for season 8 episode 2 because that just came out and I finished watching it, and now I'm finishing editing this video after watching it. Only thing I really have to say about Sansa in this episode is that why did she have to bring up the North's independence right now? I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Night King's army is no more at that point than a few days away, which it ended up being less than a day away, and she has to have a meeting with the Queen, and right when they were getting together and bonding a little bit, she had to bring up the fact that the North is not going to willingly kneel to her. Or by her, I mean Daenerys, even though that's not her decision to make. That was King Jon's, and he made the decision, and his decision is final, but apparently it wasn't for Sansa. That's it.
And just to be clear, I don't dislike Sophie Turner's performance. This has nothing to do with Sophie Turner. This is just my opinions on Sansa Stark, the character, and how they've completely butchered her. And it's one of the worst cases of them telling instead of showing. They're just like, Sansa's smart, Sansa's smart, Sansa's smart. That's her role. She's the Game of Thrones player now. But I haven't seen anything impressive from her in the entire show, and I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when I read these articles that give these stupid fucking reasons as to why she is the smartest character. Like, I still enjoy the shows because I'm invested in the characters, and I'll be honest, I'm a sap for all the homecomings and the meetups and the reunions, but the show doesn't have that same level of quality anymore that it had back in like season 1. It doesn't have any more scenes like Lena Headey and Mark Addy talking over their marriage. Nothing even close to that anymore. Instead, it's just comedy shots, eunuch jokes, and CGI dragon rides. Yeah. Oh well. I'll still enjoy the final 5 episodes, and most of you will too. Peace.
No.